Hi, I am L.A. Larkin and I'm the author of Devour, and I'm here with Professor Martin Siegert at the Grantham Institute in London. And I want to talk to you a little bit about the inspiration for my new thriller, Devour. Devour was inspired by one of the Grantham Institute's expeditions to Antarctica in 2012. And I'll let Martin explain what they were doing in Antarctica and why I found it so exciting. But for me, science and technology fuels almost all of my stories. And in fact, recently I was very lucky to be likened to Michael Crichton, and he certainly is an inspiration. But I find Antarctica fascinating, and the particular expedition to Lake Ellsworth got me really excited in terms of the premise of the book. So, Martin, what were you actually doing in Antarctica over Lake Ellsworth?
So we were trying to directly measure and sample a subglacial lake in West Antarctica, and that might need a little bit of explanation as to why we were doing that and what it is. So on the surface of the ice sheets, it's very cold, and many people think it's desolate and bleak, and indeed it is really. But underneath the ice, which can be 3 or 4 kilometres thick in some places, the temperature of the ice gets to the melting point and starts to melt, and the water flows under gravity and under the pressure of the ice that's over the top of it, and that water collects in ponds and lakes, and those ponds and lakes are scattered all around the Antarctic continent. There are over 400 that we know about.
Wow.
Now 20 years ago...
It's amazing, isn't it? 400 of them.
Yeah, and they're everywhere. 20 years ago, in 1996, a paper that I was very fortunate to be part of was published, which demonstrated that one lake called Lake Vostok in the middle of East Antarctica was over 200 kilometres long, over 50 kilometres wide, underneath 4 kilometres of ice, and the water depth beneath all that ice was 500 metres. So this is a colossal lake. This is like one of the top 10 largest lakes in the world. And when we published this paper, it got worldwide attention, media attention, public attention, but it got scientific attention as well, because if there's a water body of that size, it's quite conceivable that it contains life, microbial life, and it's quite conceivable that the sediments on the floor of that lake tell us about Earth history, climate history, going back many, many thousands and millions of years. So these are hypotheses that we can set up. Is there life in subglacial lakes, and are there climate records on the sediments of the floors of subglacial lakes? And they're completely testable hypotheses, but to test them, you've got to directly measure and sample a subglacial lake environment, which is what we were trying to do. So of the 400 lakes that we know about, the sensible thing to do is to go to where you think the maximum scientific returns are possible in the easiest way. And of all the lakes that we know about, Lake Ellsworth, the lake that we were trying to survey, comes out as a very good lake for investigation. It's in the middle of West Antarctica. It's beneath 3 kilometres of ice, and it's quite close to a logistics hub, making the whole feasibility of it better than some other subglacial lakes. So that's what we set up to do. Amazing discoveries await us in Lake Ellsworth into the future.
Thank you.